Hey, it's Ash from Revolution Me. So just a quick follow-up video on Beyonce. Since I filmed the last video, I've come to learn that she's not actually vegan. She's just promoting this 22-day plant-based diet, but she herself continues to eat meat. And I guess it's kind of disappointing. As a vegan, I was hoping that this might bring veganism into the mainstream a little bit more, get people thinking about it. But if Beyonce's not vegan and yet she's promoting a plant-based diet, then I don't know, maybe people aren't really going to take veganism that seriously. And her behavior, as cynical, the cynical part of me thinks that her behavior is just her trying to cash in on veganism as like a fad or a trend or something, rather than having respect for the philosophical and ethical implications of eating a cruelty-free diet and living a cruelty-free lifestyle. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. I do still stand by what I said in that video about being supportive when people are transitioning to a vegan lifestyle, because there's a lot of people out there who'll tell you everything that you're doing wrong, and I think that when we focus on what people are doing right, it inspires them to continue to make positive changes. And I know that this stance is controversial. I've had people tell me that I'm a bad vegan for believing in this, but I do agree. I wholeheartedly believe that when we tell people that they have to be vegan starting immediately and they have to cut everything out of their diet that they're used to eating and replace it with plant-based options, it can be too much of a jump. And I think people trying to do too much too soon is a big reason why they undereat, or they just eat the wrong things. They eat an unhealthy diet that happens to be vegan. They experience health problems, and then they go back to eating animal products, and then they spend the rest of their life telling people how a vegan diet failed them and how it was so unhealthy for them. So I think it's kind of like the slow and steady wins the race. If you take the transition, take it quickly enough, but slowly enough that you can cope with the changes, because it's a big deal to a lot of people to go from a standard Australian or a standard American diet to a vegan diet. The whole Beyonce issue has actually brought up a really important point, which is that it's important to differentiate between veganism and plant-based. So a person who is vegan obviously doesn't eat any animal products. They also don't participate in any forms of animal exploitation and cruelty. A person eating a plant-based diet happens to be eating a diet that is either totally or predominantly plants. And one thing that really irritates vegans, and I guess myself included, is when people say, I'm vegan, but I do eat eggs. They say, or I'm vegan except on weekends, or I'm vegan except for when I go on holiday. And as much as these things are healthier than a standard diet, it's not veganism. If you're continuing to eat animal products and you're doing it knowingly, so I'm not talking about inadvertently eating animal products, if you knowingly eat animal products, please do not call yourself a vegan. And I know some people will say that I'm being elitist or I'm being too pedantic because it's just words, it's just labels, and it's true. Our whole world is actually based up around labels. It's how we communicate. It's how we get clarity in our communication. Like if I tell you that I bought a book, you know that I bought a book. You know what I'm talking about. You're not going to be sitting there thinking that I bought like a teacup or a jacket or a llama or something. Having clarity around what constitutes a vegan diet or a vegan lifestyle is important, because if I go into a cafe and I see something labelled as vegan, I don't have to ask 20 questions about does it have dairy, does it have honey, does it have eggs, because it's labelled vegan, so therefore it is vegan, or at least it should be vegan. Unfortunately, what does happen is that things get labelled vegan when they still have honey in it, or things get labelled vegan and there's milk powder in it, or people make a sandwich and they say yes it's vegan and there happens to be milk powder in the bread, or weird ingredients that are animal derived. So when we have too many people confusing what veganism is, so people who claim to be vegan but they actually eat animal products, then it just makes it that much harder for the rest of the world to be clear on precisely what veganism is. A lot of people still don't really get vegetarianism. People think that vegetarian and pescatarian are the same things. People think that veganism and pescatarian is the same thing. So this is really just about communication, not about trying to put labels on people or anything like that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say in this video. I'd love to hear your comments and opinions about this. So feel free to drop me a line, drop me a note down below, and I will catch you in the next video.